Let me say one last thing, and then I'll have to let you go. So I always, years and years ago, when my son, who's now a father, was a senior at the independent school he went to outside Boston, they had their first ever grandparents visiting day. You do one of those? Yeah. And at the end of the day, the headmaster is standing out front talking to one of the grandmothers who happened to be someone that he knew. And he's raving to her about the day. This is the best thing we ever did. We should have done this years ago. I don't know why we waited so long. And then he says to her, it was so much nicer than Parents' Day. We didn't have any kids yelling at their parents. We didn't have any parents yelling at their kids. Why do you think that is? The grandmother, she didn't miss a beat. She said, that's easy. The kids and us, we have a common enemy. At one generation apart, the relationship is often a little too close, you know, and we fuss more and we worry more, and when you're back as a grandparent, it's different. So I always recommend to people, it'd be great if you could imagine, I'd be rich if I could have invented a grandparent pill. And you would take this pill and it would give you 36 hours with your children as though you were the grandparent. So you could take it Friday night and it would last you till Sunday morning, or Saturday night until Monday, and then it would wear off and you go back to being you. And during this interval, you're back one step. You're not quite as close. You love them to death, but you're not quite as close. But you have a slightly larger field of view. You know that some of them just come out that way. And you know that there's things that happen that you can't undo, but that everybody learns to live with. And you know that sometimes the child gets a bad cut here that turns into a scar and it's never going to go away, but actually in a year and a half nobody's even looking at it. And you know that some of the things the kids do now they're going to grow out of and whatnot. And then the pill wears off and goes back. But during a grandparent moment, the 36 hours, you get a bit of Mr. Rogers, which I'm going to be very sorry when I can't say anymore. In 1997, a long time ago, he got a Lifetime Achievement Award at the Emmys. It's a show I never watched, but I watched it that night. If you think Mr. Rogers used to look goofy in a sweater and sneakers, you should imagine him in a tuxedo. He comes out in front of the Hollywood stars. He says a gracious thank you. And then he said something which was impressive enough to me that I actually went and found the text. Turns out he said it everywhere he went, including when they asked him to the White House. Here's what he said. All of us have someone who loved us into being. Would you just take along with me 10 seconds to think of the people who helped make you who you are? And then he said, 10 seconds, I'll watch the time. So, would you do that? Take 10 seconds to think of the people at home or school, wherever, who helped make you who you are. I'll watch the time. So just like that, 10 seconds of what in broadcasting they call dead air. But to me it couldn't have been more alive. I don't know whom you thought of. Every time I do this, I feel blessed. I have 2 parents and 1 grandmother and a couple of teachers. And in my case, there's 2 of them there for the nurture and 1 for the structure and a couple for the latitude. But whomever you thought of, they probably weren't perfect, but they loved you enough, or they held the line enough, or they insisted you do something that you didn't think you could, but they stood by you while you did it, or whatever, to help make you become who you are. Whatever that is that you think of, that's the kind of thing your children have a right to expect and hope for from you. Not that you'll be perfect, but that you'll be good enough. Ironically, if you could be such a thing as a perfect parent, you would raise children who were not resilient, because you would have been meeting their every need. And they wouldn't have had to cope ever with disappointment or frustration or all the sorts of things that we have to learn to master in order to be resilient in life. So to me, the lessons are simple. They're not easy, but they're simple. And they go like this. You know, nurture. Kids could use a little more focus on how hard they're trying and what they're like as people, and not just what they achieve and whom they beat. Structure. Kids need to hear, no you can't, yes you must. They need a kind of example of something that says, I can limit this when I need to in order to meet my responsibilities. Latitude, they need a chance to learn from their mistakes, from certain other kinds of unfairnesses and non-catastrophic failures and disappointments if they're going to be successful. I think it's helpful to put the books away, at least for a while. Make the list of what you're good at, do a little more of that. It's helpful to remember that you're always teaching them by example, not just by what you sermonize, and that most of them actually are mostly resilient. The odds are very high that most of the children whose parents are in this room are going to turn out okay. You know? And if you can do just some of those things, and now and then you just take a little grandparent pill, I guarantee you it will help. You're very nice to come out. I appreciate it very much. I want to wish you all good luck. Have a great school year. Thank you to Byron and to Randolph for the chance to be here. Good night.